Popcorn Junkies, slightly film buffery kind of one here. So this is The Kindergarten Teacher, starring Maggie Gyllenhaal, who we are big fans of. We're big fans of her brother. She was recently seen in The Deuce, which is that series which is about, I think, porn industry or something. Anyway, this is a drama which is based on an original Israeli film. It also stars Gael García Bernal, who you love. He's got a very sweet face.
That's all he tries to do is charm people.
What does he look like? He looks like a creature.
Oh no, he looks like a baby.
He sort of looks like, he looks like one of those strange little mice that smiles. So this is the story of Lisa Spinelli, played by Maggie Gyllenhaal, who is a kindergarten teacher. I love a film that's titled is self-explanatory. Beautifully evoked, I thought right at the beginning, very underhand evocation of class. What kind of a great teacher she was, as well, with some of the scenes with the kids around her. I thought real improvisational scenes where she was genuinely interacting with the kids. And I really liked the setup.
Oh, I loved it. It was done so well, as you say. Exactly as you say, I don't know how much was written and how much was improvised, but she was perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, she obviously had some relationship with the kids. You absolutely believed it from the word.
Yeah, and I didn't feel it wasn't a film that was overly concerned with getting the story going right at the start, and I like that. A film that affords time to characterise, and so you felt so comfortable and you so believed her situation.
Yeah.
Right down to, I thought the guy who played her husband was brilliant. I thought there was that first scene with them around the table. Well, there's that first scene where you get a sense that this kindergarten teacher, played by Maggie Gyllenhaal, is an aspirant poet, and she's going to poetry class.
She's aspiring, completely aspiring something.
So the first scene you get with her husband is this lovely scene where she gets him to read a poem, and I wanted to immediately go back and see that scene again.
He's good, isn't he?
He's very good. What is the name of that guy?
I don't know.
Hang on, let's have a look.
When he first came on screen,
Michael Chernus. Very, very, very good, because what he did in that moment, you realise retrospectively, was, even as a layman who wasn't a poetry expert, he kind of knew it wasn't that good.
Yeah. But he reads it, and there's a pause, and he gives it exactly the right amount of...
He delivered the response, I live in fear, that my family gives me with all of my writing.
Well, I thought it was spot on for that.
It was so spot on. I thought just for that scene, it was a top draw. Acting a scene of not saying what you're saying, but saying what you're saying without overly saying what you're saying.
Yeah.
Which was basically, that's a shit.
She's waiting for his reaction without actually pushing him into a reaction, but
she
it's in her
realises
eyes.
that he's gone.
Thinking,
it's worth paying attention to this scene. It's
I'm not
right
sure
at the
what
beginning.
it gives her the right reaction, and we could all relax.
Well, no. So you're absolutely right. You went through the highs and lows of a reaction to a work of art, and then right at the end, which I know as a writer, killed it for her, was when he went. So it's based on the flowers around the pool, and you're like, oh my god, and she's like, yes, because it probably was.
Yes.
And so there was so much going on in that scene,
yeah.
And in a weird way, that 2 minutes of the film,
it establishes the film in a way,
well,
whether you were going to like it or not.
Well, it established the film, but it was also in microcosm the entire journey of the film.
Yes.
So I thought that was great. And so what transpires is she's a kindergarten teacher. She's working in this class, and this boy Jimmy, who's about 5. He's 5.
I don't know. They get younger and younger. These actors.
Such a cute actor, Parker Sevak. Where does he come from? Where do these kids come from in America?
I don't know, but they're getting younger.
They're getting younger and more mature.
I know.
Well, anyway, so he has these. It's almost like he has absences where he spouts poetry.
Yeah. Did you get that in the first instance, that was what was happening?
Well, I sensed it from the trailer. I mean, I sensed that it was almost like a bit of a Tourette's thing. It was like an absence that he had, and then he'd go into an internal place.
He'd walk up and down.
And he'd walk up and down, and then there's this mantra. So this child, this strange child, almost supernaturally, would just start to deliver these lines. And Maggie Gyllenhaal, I think in the first instance, wasn't writing it down in a sort of, I want to capture this for myself, but she's writing it down, and when she writes it down, she realises that there's an authentic and honest magic to what he's saying.
Yeah.
What did you think at that point? What did you think her intentions were at that point? Was she genuinely interested in the child? Was she genuinely interested? She was just blown away.
Well, in that sense, I think it's a very, very interesting film in many ways, but I think we were exactly with her in the sense that what were we hearing there?
Yeah.
We'd heard her try at a poem, which was, very average. We heard this little boy saying these things which really almost sounded like, they did almost sound like genius.
Yes.
But then again, they're very short, so you have to sort of make a decision.
What they call haikus.
Almost like haiku length,
yes,
just a couple of lines. and she's almost like this, and we're like that with her.
Yeah.
And then, no, I totally believed that it was a genuine sort of, on her part, like, what have I got here?
Yeah, she was snagged by genuine art. But I precisely think she was snagged not in a self-interested way. You saw the penny drop. I'm just going to sort of drag us back a moment, because to anyone who's a movie fan, the thought of a film about poetry is probably like a gun to your head.
Yes,
and it's like,
exactly.
God, I have to watch it. I'm going to give you a little snapshot on what I think this is. This is Maggie Gyllenhaal's version of Nightcrawler.
Yes.
Go and see Nightcrawler, in which Jake Gyllenhaal, her brother, plays this horrendously psychotic news-gathering beast who crawls the streets at night filming dead people. This slowly evolves into what's kind of a creative horror story.
It is, and also, can I just say what my version was? Because I was trying to explain it to my friend who didn't see it with me, and she'd seen the trailer and thought I couldn't be less interested, like everybody would. And I said, go and see it, because it is not at all what you expect.
No, it's not.
And in that respect, it's true, isn't it? You get a completely different film from the one you're expecting.
And the title doesn't sell it to you,
No.
and Maggie Gyllenhaal probably won't sell it to most people. And the shots, the poster, this isn't what you think you're getting. This becomes a deeply twisted, quite dark, but an incredibly, and I have to say, really, it's a one-woman show in the end.
It is.
You know, everyone else, well, one woman and this boy, Maggie Gyllenhaal just delivers an absolutely astonishingly complicated performance.
Yeah, exactly, complicated.
Navigating
so many
the highs and
levels.
lows of being creative, not creative, wanting her own So what does she do? She starts to harness the talent of this boy, and she starts to, essentially in a poetry class, read them, and garners the interest of Gael García, who's her incredibly
poetry
tutor, incredibly good looking. All the other people in the class are looking at her like, my God, this is amazing. You know, you've gone from writing mediocrity to writing something that's so searingly honest.
Yeah, you've just said that she starts to read his poetry.
Yeah, so she's reading his poetry out in class. And she's sort of, at this point, she's masquerading it as her own creations.
Yes, yeah.
And this has lots of effects for her. But
I never felt, though, as it turns out to be a different thing, but I never felt that when she was reading it out for them to like her poetry. I thought she was trying it out on them. Did you? Or did you not?
Well, I wanted to ask you, this is where I think the film's a bit ambiguous. She goes through this process. She ends up, you could argue, using her poetry to sleep with her tutor. But you didn't feel that she particularly wanted to sleep with her tutor. She wanted something else.
You never really know what she wants, because she doesn't know what she wants, you would think.
Well, I think what she did want was, I think she wanted to do this thing where by using the poetry of this boy, but not entirely denying that it's his.
Yes. Because
she couldn't, because there were so many other. There was a teaching assistant.
Yeah.
There was the nanny of the boy.
Yeah.
There was the uncle of the boy, who all knew that he had this skill.
Yeah.
She wanted to harness it.
Yeah.
And use it for leverage to get people to recognise that perhaps her poetry was good. Because there's that scene where she's kind of, she has sex with her tutor, where she says, "Can I read you one of mine?" And she reads it, and you see the look again on his face, going, "It's good, but it's not my favourite."
Yeah. Yes.
So she's trying to use it as a kind of.
I didn't even feel that as strongly as you did. I felt that she was trying to. Essentially, what she was doing was a good act, in that she wanted, and it turns out that it manifests itself with her children. She wants people to be interested in culture. She wants people to be interested in art, and they're not. Yeah. And she spends the whole film. Okay, she wants her poetry to be good, but I felt it was a more altruistic act with the boy. I did, in the sense that she wanted
so it's not like Nightcrawler
out
for you,
there.
It was like Nightcrawler for me. I thought she was deeply.
Oh, no,
I thought this was teetering
no.
on the edge of grooming, child abuse, exploitation, right down to, spoiler alert, the kidnapping towards the end.
Yeah, well, yeah, I suppose I didn't see it as a kidnapping. It was a kidnapping to all intents and purposes, but because of the way she played it, which I thought was so skillful, it was like she was off in a dream and she was saving the world.
Yeah, you're right.
She was introducing poetry to it. Yeah. And I really felt that what Maggie Gyllenhaal, she deserves something for that. Yeah. She was showing us a really conflicted woman who had it with her family because all they wanted to do was look at their phones. These were the teenagers. Got this little boy who was coming out with these amazing things that she'd have loved to have done herself, but I somehow didn't feel she was stealing that, or him. Also,
but I think maybe that's the strength of the film. Yeah. I think it leaves you to, I think, one or two things. I mean, I couldn't help but find her overbearingness on the boy and constantly take him out of the class, and the teaching assistants looking a bit odd, taking him into the toilets, waking him up from his relaxed time. I mean, she was absolutely mining him and trying to kind of get this raw material. It's like a mine. Get the raw material out. But she was not, then what she did, because then it's completely confused, because they have an open mic poetry reading thing where you think, I thought, well, this is what's going to happen. She's going to go and she's going to read her own poetry and pretend it's hers. But that wasn't as simple as that. She goes, what was the rationale behind, she takes the boy to the poetry reading where her poetry tutor and all her classmates are, and the boy reads the poetry out.
Well, that's exactly why I'm sort of favouring my line of it, because I think it was far more, not complete altruism, but I think it was far more that she wanted the poetry out there.
Right.
And if in the, and she wanted.
So regardless for the care of the boy.
Yes.
And anything, she wanted the world to know there was something purer than everything.
Yes, somebody was capable of that. And in the sense that she was the person bringing it. But I mean, often the person that brings the creativity to the world is important.
Did you feel she had ego in that? Did you think?
Well, that was what was so skillfully
It was odd, wasn't it?
done.
It was skillfully done.
I mean, I could not work out, and as you say, often in the sleeping with her tutor scene, in the kidnapping the boy scene,
She sort of seems slightly removed.
there's lots of looking at her eyes,
But
and
there's
you
also
cannot
nothing
work
going on
out,
in her eyes.
Nothing going on,
Yeah.
but you're trying to work out what she's thinking, and you can't.
Yeah. Because you've got the parallels between all this is going on in this creative world. So she's having sex with her tutor, and she's sort of, it feels like she's taking these poems and she's reading them as her own, but they're kind of not her own because she's not really concealing the fact, but she is at some times. She's, her family life is foundering.
Her family try their best. I mean, there's a scene where her daughter tries to apologise.
Yes.
And up to a point, this is where Maggie Gyllenhaal's good as well, because I felt she was accepting her apology, but she goes straight off. It's big in her head.
And she feels that there's a real rift between her and her husband. They try to have sex one moment, and then but she has this situation where she arranges for the young boy, to phone her when he's about to have a sort of poetry fit.
Yes.
It's like he's going to have a Tourette's moment where he just goes, the apple of the tree and so he phones her. That side of it I found a little bit unbelievable. I found myself in a typically male, slightly sort of OCD fashion, getting obsessed with the idea that if this was overwhelming him in a moment, he wouldn't have the wherewithal to pick up a phone and dial his teacher.
It was a fable. Yeah, the whole thing was a fable.
Yes,
and I usually don't like fables. I thought it was done incredibly well, so that it kept you in the moment, and you had to work out what could be true and what
That's a good
couldn't.
point, yeah.
I mean, I was blown away by this film in a way I never expected to be.
I thought the whole film was an interesting discussion on the notion of creativity.
Oh God, and me.
Because if these words and meanings that came out of this child, they were coming out of this child.
Yes. Just unbelievable.
Yeah, but if he hadn't had the experience, so there's that moment where she's talking to someone and they say, how can he have a knowledge of God? It goes back to this idea of child genius, just because it's a child genius and these words are coming out.
She keeps using Mozart as an example.
Absolutely. But where's it come from? What wellspring of experience is this amazing stuff come from? And if it isn't coming from anywhere, is it more a kind of an illness and a condition?
More of a Tourette's.
Precisely, Is it more of a Tourette that he manages to kind of, he's got in his head?
And just puts God into...
Exactly.
And also, don't forget, there's that very key scene where we've already been led in this direction, but somebody asks him what one of the names in the first poem he mentions is this name Anna, and nobody knows who Anna is. And somebody asks him, and then I thought that was he played that so well. It was excruciating where he says it's the teaching assistant.
I know.
And then that was a slap in the face for me, so it must have been for her.
Yeah, and in a sense that was the most revealing moment about what her intent was. She clearly wanted to attach, so there was ego. She wanted to be seen as the kind of the gatekeeper to his creativity,
Talent.
and she was going to be the conduit that brought him to the world.
Yes. Yeah.
And then at that point, on the one hand, I found that the least believable part of the whole thing. I thought it went a bit extreme, and yet it was such a sort of sinister kidnapping. That it then reminded me of something. It reminded me of things like John Fowles' The Collector. I felt like she was collecting his poetry. I felt there was a real. I did feel a sense of predatoriness. I did feel a sense of creative predatoriness.
Oh, creative.
That's what I mean. I don't mean she had there was no sexual angle.
No,
there
not
was
at
no
all.
abuse in that, but
which is quite clever to do, because she's constantly putting herself on her own with this boy and taking him into these tiny areas and talking. And when she does actually kidnap him, they go to a room, which in itself has got problems, and she has a shower and he has a shower, and you sort of think, oh my God, But at no point do you worry that he's under any sexual threat.
No, not at all.
So I'm just emphasising that.
No, you're right. But I think you're absolutely right. I think this whole film hangs on how cleverly Maggie Gyllenhaal
plays it.
Convincingly delivers the ambivalence of so many things in her.
Exactly.
You don't know whether this is about her wanting success, him wanting success. Is this for the better good of culture generally? She's frustrated with her family's lack of interest. In another weird way, you felt her sort of acquiesce in the face of even if her poetry was shit, at least she could recognise great poetry.
Exactly.
You know, so that was her saving grace. So maybe she was adjusting even her own bars of success.
Yes.
But she is remarkable.
Incredible.
I mean, Nadia will absolutely adore her performance.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's sum up and score it. I was surprised by this film. I think on a first grab, if you look at the title and you look at the description and the synopsis, you'll probably the trailer, you'll probably go, not for me. I would say stick with this film. Remarkable performances by Maggie Gyllenhaal, her husband, and an astonishing young lad who plays Jimmy. It's an incredibly interesting film about, I think, obsession.
Yes. Obsession.
Even if we can't quite nail what that obsession is, I think the fact that we can't quite nail what her obsession is really a tribute to her performance.
Yeah.
And for me, this was an absolute thump between the eyes and a reminder of what an absolutely remarkable acting talent Maggie Gyllenhaal is.
Yeah.
It's a very understated film. In many ways, it's a very sort of low-key film. It's very not uncinematic, but it wasn't obsessed with that.
No.
It was a real, I think your analogy is perfect. It's a fable.
It is a fable.
It's like a fairy tale, and you're drawn into this thing. And even those parts of the narrative that were a little bit ridiculous, like the kidnapping and what have you, there was a poetry within it.
Yes.
So I thought it was a really captivating film, and it really held my attention. I saw it late at night. I wasn't in the greatest of headspaces, and it really made me think.
Yeah, it did me.
So I'd really recommend checking this out. It's a good film. I'd give it 8.5 out of 10.
All the things that we've already said. Maggie Gyllenhaal, brilliant. So rare, and I suppose for some people it would be the kiss of death to actually say it's a film about poetry or criticism or anything like that. But it is, done in an amazing way. Don't be thrown by the trailer, because it is not the film you're getting, and I was delighted with that. I don't know Maggie Gyllenhaal as well as Mark and Nadia do, but I thought she was magnificent.
Yeah, she really was.
She, I mean, some must have been improvisational and some must have been scripted, and she just played a lunatic, but in a very,
was a lunatic
in a very sort of mild-mannered way.
I mean, could you have not just looked at her eyes for hours?
Yeah, but a bit like her brother. You felt she could go at any moment. Which was why the kidnapping scene continues.
But that's why I did feel a sense of menace at times. There were times where you saw her with the nanny, like, why aren't you? She wanted her way. Yeah,
she did want her way. Yeah,
it was will.
But I did feel she didn't know what she was aiming
No, you're right.
Yeah. But anyway, so all of that, and I, exactly the same as I might even give it higher. I'd give it 9.
Yeah, it was a really, really pleasant surprise. This was going to drift away from me, but I thought, no, let's just go and see it.
Yeah, it's one of the best films I've seen in a little while.
Yeah, and it's a small film with big things going on in it. Yeah.
For more film and family fun, don't forget to click the subscribe button and make sure to click the bell to never miss an update.